you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Switch gears, and I'll say this. At the same time that LSU-Bama was going on, that was a great game in its own right. There was another game going on that was absolutely worth tuning into. One of the more entertaining games that I have seen all year. I'm, of course, talking about USC hosting Washington at the LA Coliseum. Now, bluntly, look, we all know the deal, right? This wasn't your grandfather's college football. This certainly wasn't, poor Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes were rolling over in their grave. This was not 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It was like, 22 yards and a patch of grass flying up from a cleat as a guy was running into the end zone. It was a really entertaining game. Washington holds on to win 52-42. And listen, under a normal circumstance, we would spend some time talking about Washington. They win another game. They're in position now to make another big win on their pursuit for a Pac-12 title and a college football playoff berth. But listen, unfortunately, we know what was at stake for Washington. They took care of business. Credit to them. Great win. But we know what the real story was coming out of that game. It wasn't that Washington won, although that was important. It was that USC lost. And USC lost in the exact same manner that they have lost basically every game over the last 2 years since Lincoln Riley took over. The offense was incredible. Caleb Williams was amazing. And the defense absolutely let them down. And it felt like this was the night something had to give. You can't keep going on like this. On Sunday, USC fell out of the AP poll for the first time under Lincoln Riley. And on Sunday afternoon, the move that I think we all thought needed to come, maybe should have come literally a year ago, it did officially come as USC defensive coordinator Alex Grinch was officially fired. And you guys and girls know my stance on this stuff is I don't root for anybody to lose their job, but I'm also not one of these guys that's going to sit there and say, oh, we don't talk about other people's jobs on this show. No, if you suck at your job, we got to talk about it. And Alex Grinch was terrible. It was a move that felt like everybody knew had to be made, and it was. And so I want to break it down. I want to talk about it. And I do think there is actually one positive silver lining that probably not a lot of people are going to talk about today. Now, in terms of why it was done, we all know why. This defense was abysmal. It was abysmal last year, but it has gotten progressively worse and worse every single week this year. It was funny. Early in the year, I was saying, oh, they look improved. And I said, Nevada's really bad. Stanford's really bad. Let's see what happens when they play good teams. They've played good teams, and it has been a debacle, okay? These stats over the last couple of weeks are jarring. Wait until you listen to this, okay? USC in the last 6 games, so they played 10 games so far. They only have 2 regular season games left. Most teams have 3. In their last 6 games, half a season, they're giving up an average of 42 points per game over the last 6 games. 42 points per game. That is insane. 483 yards of total offense during those 6 games in which they have gone 3-3 overall. That is insane. Almost 500 yards of offense. They're giving up 42 points. They now rank 119th in yards per game allowed, and they rank 121st nationally in points allowed, 34 points per game. That is unbelievable. And here is the crazy part. Somehow Saturday may have been the low point. Now, I would argue maybe Cal last week. Cal's not very good. You give up 49 points in that game. But the effort against Washington was embarrassing. First of all the stuff that we've seen all year. Awful pursuit angles. They basically get blown off the ball. I mean, I've watched a bunch of games, USC, obviously, and it feels like every single game, every single time somebody runs the ball, it's like 6 yards before anybody even gets touched. Well, that was essentially what was the case against Washington on Saturday. These stats are jarring, okay? So Washington, almost 600 yards of total offense. That probably doesn't surprise you. You know, Washington, we all talk about Michael Penix. Washington had 316 yards rushing in this game. How about this? 7 yards per carry. This next stat I'm about to give you is one of the most shocking stats that I can ever remember seeing. I heard this and I didn't believe it. You know, Dylan Johnson, Washington's star running back, or he wasn't even a star until Saturday. He was a very good college running back that became a superstar on Saturday night. He had 199 yards rushing before contact. That sounds insane He finished with well over 200 yards rushing. It was a debacle, and it felt like something had to be done. And so obviously in some ways, let's credit Lincoln Riley, but in other ways, listen, this is something many would argue should have been done after last season. I'm a little hesitant to say that. I know that's been the talking point. Most people feel that way. I kind of sit it back and look, listen, they were 11-1. They won they went to the Pac-12 championship game. And like, if they beat Utah, they were going to the college football playoff. And you could say, well, they weren't going to beat Utah. Utah beat them a few weeks before. Well, Utah beat them by 1 point at home. And remember, in the Pac-12 championship game, Caleb Williams got hurt and USC was ahead. So I do think when you're playing for a conference championship in year one, you're going to a major bowl game, it's a little bit hard to justify firing him. But this was something that had to be done. And I think the only thing that's disappointing besides the obvious is that it's too little too late. And that, as we've talked about on this show for about the last 4 or 5 weeks, you basically wasted a year of Caleb Williams. And listen, say this about Caleb Williams, man. Like, I know there was a lot of narratives about him 2-3 weeks ago. He's, he doesn't care. He's not invested. He's not a great teammate. I'm not in that locker room every day. But what I will tell you is this guy has been just a superstar the last couple games. Okay. He put that team on his back and willed them to victory against Cal. I talked about the Cal game on the show last week. I thought it was one of the more incredible performances I've ever seen from an offensive player, because every single possession they needed to score in the second half, and they scored essentially every single possession. Saturday night, going up against another guy that many deemed to be a first-round caliber NFL draft pick, Caleb Williams, like, this is no disrespect to Michael Penix. Caleb Williams is another planet. Okay, first of all, Caleb Williams is 3 years younger than Michael Penix, no injury history, but the plays that he had to make, he didn't have his team rushing for 325 yards of total offense. Instead, Caleb Williams, 300-plus yards passing, 27 of 35, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. What that guy did on Saturday, and what he's done, I think, over the last couple of weeks since that Notre Dame game, what it has solidified to me, this guy is an alpha, this guy's a superstar, and this guy is the, no doubt about it, best player in college football. And he's not going to win the Heisman. I actually think Bo Nix is going to win it. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. But this guy is superhuman. He's had to be every game, and he's making plays out there that nobody else can make. Rolling out, reverse, jumping up to avoid tackle, spinning, twisting, getting first downs, running with his feet, running with his legs. He is unbelievable. And that's who I feel worse for today. I mean, I feel bad for USC fans. I feel bad for all 84 guys in that locker room, including the defense, because they weren't very well coached all year. But I feel bad for Caleb Williams. You can't tell me that kid did not leave his heart out on the field on Saturday night. And we all saw the video of him, kind of going into the stands, grabbing his mom and holding her. But like, you cannot tell me that kid does not have heart, that kid does not care, that kid is not about the right things. And I'll tell you, whoever gets that number 1 pick, whether they get it and they trade it or get it and they keep it, credit to them, because you got yourself a superstar in Caleb Williams. I think the last couple of weeks has really solidified that for me. Don't blame him because the team is 7-3. He has left his heart out on the field every single game. No, he wasn't great against Notre Dame, but he's been great every single other game, and they frankly needed him to be great every single other game. Lastly, let me say this about the move from Lincoln Riley and USC, okay? And I think it's a conversation that not a lot of people are having. I think there is a positive that comes out of this, and this. 2-3 weeks ago, we all heard the rumors about Lincoln Riley, and frankly, I heard the same thing kind of through the grapevine. Could he be seriously pursuing an NFL opportunity outside of this season? And I told you on this show, I said, like, point blank, what I was told is essentially that I don't think he was offered, or I don't think he's pursuing NFL jobs. What I think he has instructed his agent to know is that if somebody drafts Caleb Williams and they want the opportunity to pair Lincoln Riley with Caleb Williams, that he would take the phone call and maybe be interested. Like, I don't think, if Bill Belichick retires and the Patriots have the 16th pick, I don't think Lincoln Riley is going to New England. I think if it's the Bears or whoever gets the number 1 pick and Caleb Williams is going there, he would love to continue his coaching career with him. I will say, though, I do think the positive of this Alex Grinch move, I do think if you're totally checked out, you're not coming back, you're going to take any NFL job, I don't know that you make this move, right? There's only 2 weeks left in the season. Everything that you want to play for is essentially done. I know they could backdoor their way into the Pac-12 championship game. I don't think it's going to happen. But I bring it up because what this is Lincoln Riley saying is that change has to happen. It has to start now, and we have to get this thing going in the right direction. And so I bring it up because I actually do think it's a positive. I actually do think that if Lincoln Riley didn't care and he was checked out, he was ready to go to the NFL, I don't know if he makes this move. I think he bites the bullet for 2 more weeks, says we'll get it figured out in the offseason, and then he evaluates his situation from there. Now, I'm also not saying that if the right opportunity comes up that there's 0% chance he'll take it. But what this says to me is that I do believe that he is kind of in it at USC for the long haul, that a change had to be made, that he knew it, and that he is ready to evolve with the next into the next generation of USC football. And I think this can be a positive, right? We talked about it a few weeks ago with Ryan Day. Ryan Day, that Oregon loss in 2021, it opened his eyes that you cannot keep going on like this, that at some point you're not going to have the best offense in college football, a top 5 pick at quarterback, and at some point you are going to have to rely on your defense. It led to changes, it led to the hire of Jim Knowles, and it led to the evolution of Ohio State football. I don't know if that's exactly what Lincoln Riley is thinking, but I do think he realizes if I'm going to be here for a little while, if I'm not going to the NFL, if whoever drafts Caleb Williams doesn't want me, or if I just want to stay here, that something has to change and that I am ready to make that change internally. So sometimes a negative can turn into a positive, and I think this is it. I feel bad for Caleb Williams. I wish we could have seen Caleb Williams on a big stage against an Alabama or a Florida State or whoever, but it wasn't meant to be. Alex Grinch fired as he should have been.